In today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're going to talk about that 2% of the population who we work with. It's those people who have a pension and who have saved at least $1 million, and we refer to these folks as what's called a Midwestern Millionaire. And this is a folk who has been hardworking, diligent savers, Midwestern values, even though they may live all across the country. These are people who have done the right thing all of those years, and now they've gotten to a point where they need to do more advanced planning to make sure they're maximizing their hard-earned life savings. And so if that's you today, we're going to talk about the unique challenges of this group, and we're going to talk about what you need to do to make sure you are maximizing that retirement. And so that's what's in store for today of Joe Knows Retirement.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
Hi, my name is Joe Schmitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Peak Retirement Planning. We're a boutique retirement planning firm located in Ohio, and we serve clients all across the country, and we serve this folk with pension and $1 million or more saved up. And it's a unique situation because only 20% of people have a pension. And if you watch this channel, you've heard me say that a ton. The other unique thing about the people we serve, though, is they have at least $1 million saved up. And so to have at least $1 million saved up, you're probably going to be in the top 10% net worth in the entire country. And what's even more unique is if you have $2 million or more, then you could be in the top 5% net worth in the entire country. And we talk about that with a lot of our clients who are in that situation, and they just can't believe it. And so what's so unique about this situation, though, is that when you combine those two percentages, 20% and 10%, that gives you 2% of the population is in this unique situation where they have a high income in retirement due to a pension, and they have a large amount of assets, typically in tax-deferred dollars that when they take money out are going to have to pay a lot in taxes, combined with a pension, combined with Social Security. They're going to be in a higher income situation in the future. And so this is an area our firm specializes in. It's one of the reasons why we have clients all across the country that come and see us. It's really a small niche. We're only really targeting 2% of the people out there, whereas most advisors are just trying to work with everyone. They're not really looking to have that niche approach where they can really go deep with a specific crowd where they're seeing that specific thing all day, every day. As we tell clients all the time, we see pensions all day, every day. And that's the whole point of this channel, is to make sure that we can make the tailored content appropriate for that crowd. Because if you're an advisor, for example, do you really want to serve only 2% of the population? There's not a lot of opportunity if you're only going to look at serving 2% of the population. Fortunately for us, we've built a niche there, so we've had more people interested and engaged with that topic, and so it's kind of, as we've gone deeper, it's gotten, we've grown even more. And so that's the point that we always want to emphasize, is just make sure you're working with a team who understands your unique situation if you're in this situation. There's a lot more advanced planning that goes into it. We always talk about this. If you only have $200,000 saved up, you may not need as advanced planning. You may not need as comprehensive planning, right? There may not be as much advanced estate planning that comes in. Maybe there's not as much as advanced tax planning that comes in because of your situation. And so, the other thing I'd like to say here is that if you are in this position with $1 million saved or more and a pension, congratulations. I mean, you just have to understand what the value is of a pension first and foremost, and then you're already in the top 10%. But we see that pensions, it's not outside the realm of possibility to see that that's $1 million of worth or more. I mean, just think about it. If you have a $50,000 a year pension, and let's say you start receiving that at 65, and let's say you live just another 10 years, well, that's $500,000 that's going to be paid out to you, assuming there's no cost of living adjustment, just over that 10-year period. And so it's an incredible opportunity to have. And you've probably also heard of the 4% rule. And so the 4% rule says that if we want to spit out $50,000 of income per year, we're going to need over $1 million to be able to get you $50,000 a year, right? Because that's considered a 5% withdrawal rate. And the 4% rule says if you take out 4% from your investments, that should last you for the next 30 years. And so if you're taking out 5% for $1 million, that may not even last 30 years. And so you can see how awesome this pension opportunity is to be able to have that capability to have that guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life. And if you have a pension, you're thinking, Joe, I already get all that. I already know I'm spoiled. I already know I'm in a great position. You don't have to over-explain that. But I just do want to overemphasize how great of a situation that is. It makes the planning much more unique. There's a lot more factors involved. You're more likely to hit, Medicare premium tiers. You're more likely to have Social Security be fully taxable. There's a lot. You're likely to be in a higher tax bracket. There's a lot of considerations, but that's good problems to have. We never want to complain about that. We just have to plan appropriately to make sure we're in the best position moving forward. And as I say, we call this group the Midwestern Millionaire, and I'm actually, writing a book on this right now, and it should be out here very, very soon, so keep your eyes out on that. And this is all about this crowd. Just think about it. If you have a pension, typically pensions are offered to federal employees, state employees, people who they're not making millions of dollars. You're not going to see a business owner with a guaranteed pension payout, from the state or federal government, right? These are typically built for those blue-collar workers, those people who have worked extremely hard over all of those years. They've been committed, they've been loyal to their employer, and then that's where they get this generous payout from. And so understand that those are the people we love working with, those who have committed their lives to service, as we say. And so that's who we typically work with, and that's why it's enjoyable for me. I mean, I'm from a rural community, Carroll, Ohio, very small. There's 500 people in the village. There's one traffic light. Sometimes it works. And it's just a lot of hardworking people who do the right thing, who treat people with respect, and that's what it's all about. And so that's why we really enjoy serving this crowd, and that the fact that they've accumulated $1 million or more with being in that situation, with much of their paycheck going towards their pension, it just shows the type of person they are from a savings, from a diligence standpoint, and it's fun and rewarding to help those people because it's important to them. You know that they've wanted to commit to being the best they can with their financial situation, to be the best stewards of their life savings. And so for us to step in at that point, they've been going up the mountain all these years, they've been so good, they've been accumulating, they've been doing the right thing, and for them to get to the top of the mountain and say, all right, now it's time to maximize it moving forward. We've done the right thing. Now we just need to make sure we're planning moving forward. It's rewarding to step in and help them maximize their life's work and ensure that they get to live out the retirement that they wanted to. And that's what's great. And so, one of the challenges that we see with these people, though, is the fact that they are in an incredible situation and they don't want to spend any money. And a lot of times they don't want to spend money because they've been so caught up over all these years of frugalness. Save, 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 save. And as we say with this Midwestern Millionaire, they're the best savers, but the worst spenders. And we really have to encourage our clients to spend. I mean, we even go as far as to getting a peak retirement planning approved stamp that we mail out to clients, and we say, hey, you have permission, you have our permission to go buy stuff. Just, here's our stamp of approval, right? It's kind of like a blank check. Go do what you want to do, because we just see so many of our clients underspend in retirement. And for some of our clients, they may want to do that. They may want to, spend less so they can enjoy the frugalness, and that may be something that gives them joy. The other thing, they may just want to be more generous. Maybe they want to be frugal so they can give their kids more, or give their grandkids more, or give more to charities. And if that's the case, that's great. That's a very noble mindset to have. But a lot of times we see with the clients is they want to enjoy the retirement that they've worked so hard for. They sacrifice so much. Now it's time to go. And so a lot of times we're encouraging people, go spend your money. And typically we tell them, hey, you can spend this much money and still not run out. And they still have problems spending that because it's just so much, right? But a lot of times we're telling our clients, hey, you don't have to spend money, but you have encouragement, you have the ability to spend money if you wish to. And so we have a lot of tools, resources that we build out for clients. We have specific conversations built to help them just get a better feel for their situation, to really help them realize the situation and the where they're at, so they can make those decisions of how they want to spend or give, or what they want to do with that wealth that they've accumulated. Another big challenge with these people with pensions and $1 million or more is just simply tax planning. I think people, you've probably always heard you'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. I mean, you've been told that your entire life. That's not necessarily the case with people with pensions with $1 million or more. And one reason is because, one, your pension already puts your income higher. And so because of that, you're going to force your Social Security likely to be fully taxable, which is what, it can be 85% taxable. And there's something called the Social Security tax torpedo, where you're in the 12% tax bracket, but you actually start to force Social Security to become taxable. So now that actually bumps up your all-in taxes to, 20 or 30 or 40, even 45%, even 50% is what we've seen sometimes. But typically it's around 20 to 40% is your all-in tax rate as you take out additional income from one point to the next. Even though you're in a 12% bracket, you're forcing other taxes to come into the play. And so whenever we do tax planning for clients, we always want to look at all-in taxes. Federal taxes is great, right? Federal taxes are the 12%, the 22%, 24% brackets, but we have to look at the other things on top of that. Social Security, Medicare, NIT, we have to look at capital gains, we have to look at AMT eventually when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires will come back and be more important. We have to look at credits and deductions we're phasing in and out of. State taxes is a big one. We work with clients all across the country, and we have a lot of people that want to move when they retire. They want to move in retirement, and so if that's the case, we need to understand what the state tax rules are so we're making decisions in the right way. And there's a plethora of taxes out there for state level, and we actually wrote about that in my book, I Hate Taxes, and we wrote a whole chapter on how you need to make sure you're aware of state taxes in different states, and especially if you're looking to move states, and that's important to you to make sure you're maximizing, the state tax, in all these different states, right? Because Florida has no state tax, Tennessee no state tax, Ohio, we have a state tax here. You have to see, does that make sense to move those states just for that? Or do you want to, look at the other taxes like property taxes, maybe higher in Texas, right? Texas has pretty high property taxes in specific areas. And so you just have to be aware of those things. And what we tell a lot of our clients is, hey, that shouldn't be the most important decision. But if you are trying to maximize that, just be aware of it. Like I said before, most of our clients have enough money at this point. They shouldn't make a decision to move to their dream place based on taxes. They should move to their dream place and then make it work from the tax standpoint. It's typically our advice, but just in case you're interested in maximizing that. And so you just have to remember that, a lot of people we see with a pension, they may have $100,000 or more in retirement, and we see even people with $200,000, $300,000 of guaranteed income with pensions and Social Security throughout their retirement because of what they have there. And that's great, but you're in a higher income situation, so everyone told you you'll be in a lower tax situation in retirement. That doesn't apply to this 2% of the population. That applies to probably almost 90% of the population, but not this crowd. And so just understand you're in a unique situation. So it's probably going to make sense to do some more advanced tax planning strategies up front, things like a Roth conversion, things like tax loss harvesting, just really making sure you're getting ahead of your taxes so you're not left with a huge income in the future because you have your pension, Social Security, and then there's something called required minimum distributions that a lot of people with pensions are concerned about, and rightfully so. And this is when the government forces you to take out money from your tax-deferred vehicles. And so think of your 401k, your IRA, your 403b, all of those employer-sponsored plans that you have not paid taxes on, right? You contributed to it, you got a tax deduction, but now when you take out money, you're going to have to pay taxes. And what you have to consider is, do you want to pay those taxes now, like do a Roth conversion, for example, while tax rates may be lower historically right now, but also, what's your income going to be throughout retirement? If you're expecting your income to be about the same or more, maybe you want to get ahead of that now versus later, because you could end up in a higher tax bracket situation in the future due to, the pension income, Social Security, and your investment income. And typically that's more than what people make when they're working is what we see, especially when you have $1 million, because your RMD at 73, it's 4% takes out of $1 million, you're going to be at $40,000. If you have $2 million, that's $80,000 on top of your pension, Social Security. That's probably well over $100,000, maybe $200,000 at that point, and it's going to be probably more than you made when you're working is typically what we're seeing there. So again, just getting ahead of that is going to be important, and I think people don't really understand that being in a higher income or in retirement is not necessarily. It's a great thing, don't get me wrong, but from a tax standpoint, that's who the government's coming after. You've seen all in history, government's coming after high income and they're coming after high net worth. And you're really in both of those situations and being this 2% population. And so I'm not saying that, watch sleeping at night because the government's coming after you, but you all know that they want to tax the rich. And I'm not here to say that, you are rich, because a lot of people have different connotations on that word, but you are wealthy and you do have significant wealth compared to the U.S. And so if the government needs revenue, $37 trillion in debt right now, who are they going to come after? Where are they going to come after? Obviously, you've heard and seen that that's a target that they have. Now, that may never happen, but it is obviously a consideration. Another concern that this 2% population have is what's called the widow's penalty, and we talk about this often. It is one of the bigger risks out there, especially those with higher income, but those with a higher net worth. And a lot of it's based on my other point I just mentioned is taxes. And so what happens when one spouse passes away is you're going to potentially have to pay double the amount of taxes because your tax brackets go from married filing jointly to single, and so basically your taxes taxes could nearly double at that point. Your standard deduction also gets cut in half, and you also lose one of the Social Securities. So you have a loss of income, potentially more in taxes, and then if you have a pension, obviously you need to make decisions early on of what you want to do from a survivorship perspective. Most pensions will give you the option, and if you want to elect a 100% survivorship option, you'll have to pay for that, obviously. We just went through that with a client recently. He had to pay $700 to get that option. We looked at some options for him. So basically what we did is we showed him if he took the survivor, we showed him if he got life insurance instead with that $700, and we showed what if he just tried to self-insure. And then, we worked through that with our clients to see what makes the most sense, what are the pros and cons of each option, and allow them to make a decision that they're going to feel comfortable with. But, we always want to make sure when making those types of decisions that the spouse is always going to be good to go. We can't shortcut that, because if that person dies tomorrow, the plan fails. And at the end of the day, from a financial planning perspective, our goal is to succeed 100%, right? And so if that's the case, we need to make sure we're making conservative, decisions to make sure we're covering all the risks out there. And so this widow's penalty can really hit this crowd hard, because let's say that the pension does come over, you do get to keep one of the two Social Securities, and then the investments are going to stay the same amount. And that's going to force you to have a higher income at a single tax bracket in the future, causing that spouse to not be able to take home as much money that they are bringing in, right? It's not how much you take from your investments, it's not how much you take in from income, it's how much you keep, right? Because the taxes are going to have to come out. And so we see with the widows that typically they get crushed by taxes at that point. The good news is you can start to do things now. We mentioned a Roth conversion, right? Do things to lower your income in the future. If you do a Roth conversion as an example, you could pay the taxes now, and then moving forward, when you take money out from Roth, there's no tax. So let's say that widow is in that situation, they take out from a Roth, now they're not increasing their income at a very unfortunate time when they're single tax bracket. So that's a consideration, but the widow's penalty is definitely one to have on your radar. And then the last point I'm going to talk about the challenges of this 2% crowd is legacy planning. And I'd say it's a challenge, but it's also something it's an opportunity. And it's just more so what I'm encouraging is consideration. Because think about it, if you have a pension and Social Security, you're probably going to get most of your income covered from that, or a good chunk of it at least, especially with this crowd we talk about, which means that you may not touch your investments, or you may take a little bit out, which never allows those investments to draw down. Those investments may just continue to grow and grow and grow over time, which is awesome. That's great. Now, my question is what are you going to do with it? Because you can't take it with you, right? There's no U-Haul behind you when you pass away. And so because of that, you need to start thinking about more purpose behind what your life savings is for. Do you want to spend it? Do you want to gift it? Or do you want to give it? There's the only three things you can do with your life savings, and so it's up to you to decide how you want that to be done. And if you make no decisions and the kids are beneficiaries, and they may get millions of dollars at that point, and if you're okay with that, great. But what we see a lot of times the kids get that money, and they may not need that much money. They may be confused with all of that money, and so you just have to decide, is that really something that you want to entertain, or would you rather see it go to a charity, or would you rather see you spend it? I mean, we had a client recently, they said either you fly in first class or your kids are going to fly in first class, because obviously once you pass, they take the money and go do what they want. And so you get to decide what that is. So if you believe in that same concept, well, maybe you should start to live more luxuriously and enjoy what you've worked so hard for. And we always tell clients, we're not here to tell you what to do with your money. It's your money. We're just here to guide and make sure you're doing what you want to do with it to give you the most joy and fulfillment with it. Because at the end of the day, money's a tool, and it can be used to give, gift, or spend and enjoy, right? And so you just have to decide what's most important to you and just make sure you have a plan. But so many times we see people where they start their retirement and they have these expectations they're going to spend and do all this stuff, and it just doesn't happen. And the reason why is because they just don't get around to it. And so, if that's the case, you just have to make sure you've got a plan to do that. And we have a lot of people that work with us who literally tell us that we want you to hold us accountable so that we enjoy the retirement, because we said a few years ago that we were going to do all this stuff and we haven't done anything yet because life's just busy and we don't have anyone poking us on the shoulder and saying, hey, what are you doing? And so just make sure you have someone that's going to hold you accountable. If you're working with an advisor team already, I'm sure they'll be there to make sure that you're doing what you need to moving forward. So that's all I've got today on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. If you are looking for this type of planning and you are part of that 2% population and you want to explore working with us, then you're welcome to schedule a 15-minute call in our description below. I will be very clear, we don't work with everyone who comes and works with us. I mean, last week just alone, we had over 60 people reach out to us to schedule a time that want to work with us. And we're more of a boutique firm. We're not here to just serve everyone. We want to make sure we do the best work with the people we connect best with, who really value and see the value of our planning. So that 15-minute call is really an opportunity to see if we could be a good fit. And if so, we'll schedule another session to explore further and look to make it a decision in that next session to move forward or not. But I just want to be very clear that, we're not out here trying to work with every single person. And, if we can't help someone or we just don't feel it'll be the best fit, then we'll at least make sure they're guided in the right direction in that 15-minute call. But I just want to be very transparent and clear of who we are and what we do, and make sure that everyone's on the same page. So with that being said, we'll catch you on the next one, and just make sure you subscribe and like this channel, and we'll make sure the videos keep coming.